Welcome to Ginny's, where East meets West, and a slice of Eastern philosophy becomes a part of Western thinking. I'm your host, Ginny Gong. Today's guests have certainly made their mark in the Asian Pacific American community. Together, they total more than 75 years of commitment to community service, and each are readily recognized in the Asian Pacific American circles by their first names. When it comes to grassroots advocacy, my first guest has been there doing that, having dedicated most of her adult life to the empowerment of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. This leader of leaders was the executive director of a number of key organizations, including OCA, Asian and Pacific Islanders with Disabilities of California, Asian Pacific American Institute of Congressional Studies, and the Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation. She was appointed chair of President Obama's Advisory Commission on Asian American and Pacific Islanders and is the first Asian American to serve on the Board of Trustees of her alma mater, Wesleyan University. Join me in welcoming Daphne Kwok. Welcome, Daphne.
Thank you so much, Ginny.
You've been involved in so many Asian Pacific American organizations. Are there any that you've not become part of something?
Well, I think I've had a hand in quite a few of them, especially starting a lot of the national ones based here in Washington, D.C.
Right, and that stemmed from your role with OCA at the very beginning?
Well, OCA, and I think just my interest in working with the Asian American community, and I sort of fell into it growing up here in the D.C. area. At a time when there weren't many Asian Americans here. So I've been very fortunate to sort of fall into an occupation in an area in which I really truly love and feel very fortunate to be in.
Well, it shows just in terms of your passion. Now, your involvement in the Asian American community and in all of these different organizations, what have you learned about the community?
Well, one thing I've learned is that, boy, when we talk about diversity in the Asian American Pacific Islander community, it's really true. Even though my whole career has been in the AAPI community, I'm still learning, even to this day, about the newer communities, especially like the Bhutanese, the Burmese, the Mongolian communities. So for me, I'm continuing to learn every single day, but it's also very complex, very complicated, and the model minority myth is still one that we still really have to dispel.
Right, I know we've been working on it. Everybody's, chipped away at it, but it's still there.
It's unfortunately still there, and I think I don't know what's going to take to really chip away at it much faster.
Well, I know you're very involved in the political process. But how did you get involved in that? And, how old were you at that time?
Well, it's actually ironic because growing up literally inside the Washington, D.C. Beltway, we never spoke about politics at the dinner table. We were, of course, in music and violin and piano and education. But it was way after college. I was back here in the D.C. area. One of my colleagues took me to a political fundraiser reception, and he knew that I'm very close to my university, Wesleyan University, and he said, well, Daphne, come. This guy, Jerry Beliles, is from your alma mater, and he's running for governor of Virginia. And so, of course, I had to go, not knowing one thing about him, but that got me hooked, and I got very heavily involved in local Fairfax County Democratic Party politics.
So how important is it for Asian Americans to get involved in politics? Very often people will say, well, it doesn't really, involve me, so why should I invest time?
Well, I think unfortunately that's what we constantly hear in our community. That's what we've been working all these decades, the last few decades, to chip away at that myth as well, too, that we really, every one of our voices can make a difference, and every one of our votes literally can make a difference between whether a candidate's elected or not. And we, as a community, have to voice our issues so that elected officials and policymakers can really hear from us directly.
So in terms of the Asian American community, what are some statistics about us? What's our voting record? Are we Democrats? Are we Republicans? What are we?
Well, it's very interesting because in this election cycle in 2012, we have about 17, 18 million AAPIs, according to the latest census. About 55% of us are of voting age, so that's 18 and above. And actually 65% of us, and out of that, only 55% of us who are eligible to be registered are actually registered to vote. Now that is a pretty dismal percentage. It's actually extremely low.